Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly is set to be questioned by MPs in just moments on her government's response to the crisis in Afghanistan, specifically the efforts to resettle Afghan refugees. So far, just over 12,000 refugees have come to Canada since the country was taken over by the Taliban last August. Roughly half of those are translators and others who assisted our military. Canada, though, has committed to resettle 40,000 Afghan refugees, so the government has only resettled just over a quarter of that goal. Jim Estill is a private refugee sponsor. He's also CEO of Danby Appliance Company. He's with us from Guelph, Ontario. Hi, Mr. Estill. Good to have you on our program. Thank you for making the time.
Well, thanks for having me.
We're just standing by to watch for the Foreign Affairs Minister being asked about the government's response. I know that you have been involved in efforts to privately sponsor refugees. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience and some of the frustrations that you've had?
Well, the primary frustration as a hard-driven entrepreneur is speed. So the speed is very, very, very slow. We asked to sponsor 300 Afghan refugees. We were given permission to sponsor 10 out of 300. And then about a week and a half ago, we were told we could sponsor another 30. So we're up to 40 that we're allowed to sponsor. We can't sponsor unless the government gives us those allocations.
And have you any idea why, if you're willing to sponsor 300, you're limited to just 40? Like, what have they told you about that?
So for what it's worth, it's all sponsorship agreement holders, and there's 200 of them. Most of them are churches. Most of them are not private companies like Danby Appliance. And the gist of it is there's a backlog, an administration backlog, and it's almost like they're in paralysis. And of course, we have the Ukraine happening as well. So we've got multiple conflicting things that take time for everything. And so I can see some of it, but as a fast entrepreneur, I wish they would move faster, and I think they should be able to.
Is the only thing, preventing those refugees from coming here from your vantage point simply like the processing of this paperwork? And I ask because we've spoken to many of them who are actually there or in Islamabad, for example, who have, had real trouble trying to get any of that paperwork processed, have had a lot of issues with the department and communication or lack thereof. Do you see it as something that could be fixed just by a faster processing of that paperwork?
I believe they could definitely sponsor, they definitely could move the paperwork faster. We can only sponsor refugees. And the definition of a refugee is someone who is not in their country of origin and who cannot safely return. And there are a few million Afghan refugees. These are people in Pakistan. These are people in Uzbekistan. These are people who are outside of their country of origin. What we're asking to sponsor are existing refugees. We're not looking at trying to do extractions from inside the country. That's not what we do, and that's not what we're asking for. So it is simply a matter of speed of processing paperwork, in my opinion.
And what is your motivation? Like, why is this something that you want to pursue?
Well, this is just a humanitarian crisis. It's one of those things, do the right thing. I don't want to live my life near the end and say, I stood by and did nothing. I want to do what I can do to help. Also, from an urgency point of view, we have to deal with the Afghan refugees in the next 12 to 18 months, because in 12 months, there will be Ukrainian refugees. I know we'll deal with some of those now, but the ones we deal with now, they mostly have family here. They don't yet feel like refugees. They've been welcome in Poland, the Ukraine, Romania. So they don't have an urgency to come here yet. They actually want to stay there. And the Ukrainians tend to be part families. They're mom and the kids and maybe grandma and grandpa, but the men aren't leaving. So the floodgates will open on the Ukrainians in about a year. We only have 1 year to get as many of these Afghan refugees in as we can, in my opinion.
And based on what you've experienced so far, what's your level of confidence that the government will be able to kind of fulfill that?
Well, the only reason I have a little bit of confidence is 4 years ago or 5 years ago, when we were doing Syrian refugees, it was slow for a full year. We applied for to sponsor bring in Syrian refugees, and then all of a sudden the floodgates opened. So I know the government knows how to do it and can do it when they apply resources. And COVID has also been a big problem. I mean, I know we're all running our businesses with COVID, so the government is not immune to that either. So I am hoping the government will. And it isn't good, though, leaving it to the last minute. If you're going to do it, my answer is always do it now as opposed to wait until later.
Okay, Mr. Estill, I'll leave it there. I see the Foreign Affairs Minister is up at committee. Thank you very much for your time this evening. I really appreciate it.